because it wasn't long before I was in a really bad way. Having the salad dressing upside down in the refrigerator so that whatever was left in there I could get out to put on something. I drove a Mercedes, but I had no toothpaste for my toothbrush. You know what I'm saying? I had done well, but now I wasn't, and so I was hurting even though I looked like I was well. And I'm at church one Sunday, and this is something that ties into the message that the Benhams have been sharing with you, and I'm so impressed with these men, and Larry and the whole team, Brian and everybody. It's unusual. You do well to heed them. But I didn't know them back then. And so I'm at church one Sunday, and the pastor's preaching, and he gives a throwaway line. I say a throwaway line is I bet you nobody even remembers that service, including him. But he made the statement off the cuff in the middle of a sermon. He said, instead of asking God to bless what you're doing, why don't you ask God what He's blessing and do that? Jeez, that made sense to me. Because what I was doing, I tried to get Him to bless my thing, but it just wasn't working. So I said, well, I didn't expect this answer. I said, well, what are you blessing? Listening prayer, which is key. When I say we have an advantage, we have a huge advantage. You can tap into, Jesus said, I'm going to send the Holy Spirit and He will teach you all things and lead you in the way you should go. But what does the enemy do? In any warfare, if they can cut off communication, that's a big deal. Which is why you see Joshua, when they finally invaded the Promised Land, they attacked the Central Highlands, they cut off communication, they broke into 12 groups, and they mopped up local resistance. Strategy is taught in military schools to this day. Cutting off communication is essential. How does he do that? Oh, I'm busy. I got this, I got that, I got a million things. When's the last time you said, I got to spend quality time? Not because it's been months, but like that's my habit, my routine. To hear, because it's a resource that you can have. So I said to him, what are you blessing? And the way God often speaks to me is He'll give me a Bible verse. Which is helpful because I don't know what it is usually. So when He said Psalm 68:11, what does that say? Anybody quote that off the top of their head? Yeah, me neither. But it said, God gave the word, and great was the company that published it. And I said, you want me to publish your word? I don't know anything about publishing. I'd never thought of publishing a book in my life. I never aspired to write a book in my life. It was not on my radar. But I said, give me an idea and I'll do it. And so, listening prayer, as they call it, and I love it, I go for a walk. Now for me, I like to walk in the woods. I like to walk a lot of places. And I talk out loud. And I talk to God and I hear Him and He speaks to me. And He gives me an idea for a book. I began working on it. It's called The Bible Incorporated. Some of you have that book, right? That book was His idea. I hand wrote it. Every word in that thing. I had a computer, but I hand wrote it. I hand wrote the entire book. And I self-published it. I called a printer and he said, how many do you want? And it was leather bound, brass corner, gold edge, gift wrapped in a box. And he said, how many do you want? And I said, gosh, it's obviously going to be a bestseller, right? I mean, it's God's book, it's His idea. So I said, 25,000. And that's $100,000 investment. Now, maybe you forgot what I said at the beginning. I had the salad dressing upside down in the refrigerator. I had no toothpaste, thank you. And I had no way of paying for those. Well, actually I did. My strategy was just sell enough books in the first 30 days before the bill comes due to pay for the whole thing. That made sense to me. So when I called the printer in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I placed the order, he called me back, he said, are you sure you want 25,000 copies? I said, well, why? He said 80% of the books published in America by real publishers never sell more than 5,000 copies. And you're just a guy with an idea and apparently a big basement. You don't have any distribution outlet. You don't have any outlets of any sort. You've never been in the industry. You don't know what you're doing. And he was right. But you know what? This is the advantage we all have in this room. If you will tune into him, if you will grab a hold of that lifeline, my God, he can take you all kinds of places. So I said, well, I put it on hold for a few seconds. I said, Lord, I didn't know that. Did you know that? Yeah, he knew that. I said, no, we'll go ahead and do it. He said, okay. They ordered 25,000. I got in my car. I had a mock-up, and I drove up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, to a big distributor called Spring Arbor Distributors. They were the first call I went, and I said, hey, I want you guys to sell my book to bookstores. They said, how'd you get in here? Who are you? My name's Michael Pink. I've got this book. Here's a picture. It's not printed yet, but it will be, and it's going to look really great. He looked at me. He said, we don't deal with people like you. We don't stock your kind of book. You have to be a publisher. I mean, a real publisher like Thomas Nelson, one of the biggies. You have to be somebody like that. You're not that. You're nobody. I said, no, you don't understand. What you're looking at is a picture of a best-selling book. This book's going to be one of the most in-demand books in America. It's going to be on television. It's going to be everywhere. And you're not going to have it. And you're going to wish you did. And I'm going to be on television. It's going to be promoted all over the country. In fact, all over the world. And you're not going to have it. And by the way, you have to order 1,000 copies if you want minimum to get it. He said, we never order more than 1 or 2 cases, 24 or 48 books, from the biggest publishers in the world. We're not going to buy 1,000 from you. I said, you don't understand. It's going to be one of the best-selling books in America. You're going to want that book, and you're not going to have it. Do you want to be in the situation? He ordered 1,000 books. I drove from there, from Nashville, where I lived, up to wherever it was, Michigan, and I drove from there to Iowa, and I went to Riverside Bible. I said, hey, my name's Michael Pink. I got a best-selling book here. It's not out yet, but it will be, and it's going to be wonderful. And so they ordered 1,000. And then I went to East Tennessee to Appalachian Book Place Distributors, and I said, no, listen, if you want a good price, I mean, 1,000 is not a bad price, but you want a really good price, you got to buy 5,000. So they did. Now, this is before the book rolled off the press. But see, the thing is, it almost sounds like I was cocky or cavalier, and it really wasn't that. I was just ignorant. If I'm being honest with you, I just didn't know how the game was played. I assumed you're a big company, you'd buy at least 1,000. And if you want a good price, of course you're going to get 5,000. Selling is the transference of passion.
Okay, everybody, say that again, Mike. That was...
Selling is the transference of passion. You could say selling is the transference of conviction. You could say selling is the transference of belief. And if you don't have it, they're not going to get it. I had it. That's the book stuff. It went. I should tell you, we sold out in 8 months. We went on to sell hundreds of thousands of copies. I ended up selling the company.